All right. Welcome, everybody. My name is Carl Fengler. I run the Ignition Lab, which is the entrepreneurship program, the prime one here on Pratt. And so we launched its initial year last year, and we didn't know what we were going to get into, and it was super successful. It actually ended with a pitch competition. We had about 8 teams that got up and presented in front of angel investors and nonprofit CEOs. The president of Pratt was there, the vice president of student affairs. It was huge, and they had this amazing experience that also became a certificate program. So even if you go through the whole program and you decide not to go through with your idea, you have this experience, this knowledge base, and the certificate that you can put on a resume that looks absolutely incredible. So it's similar to an internship in that sense as well, which is kind of a hidden benefit that we didn't anticipate on the onset. Okay, so if it's all right, I just kind of want to walk you through a little slide deck so you can get a sense of what we did last year, and then I'd love to just open it up to questions so you guys can ask whatever you want. And I want to know about you and why you're here and what you're interested in. Sound good? Okay, also I'm the Associate Director of Career Development here, and I run entrepreneurship. My background is I did professional acting right out of undergrad, did some film and television, stuff like that, and then it felt a little self-indulgent, and so I got into clinical psychology with the focus on helping people, and so I kind of combined those things, and now I work with artists to be super successful. So that's how I got here. All right, so first, basically, it's structured starting in October, okay, with 5 different sessions. And it's usually about a session a month. Okay, it's on a Saturday from noon to 3. And we can give you those exact dates. Yvonne, do you have the exact dates? Can you grab the cheat sheet for me so I can tell them that, please? Thank you. And each session has a theme, right? So the first session last year, I'm going to show you, thank you. So you guys want the dates? Session 1 is going to be October 13th. They're all Saturdays, they're all noon to 3. So it's October 13th. And that's going to be session 1. Session 2 is going to be November 3rd. Then there's going to be the winter break. And what's great is you'll see, because I'll talk about what we cover in each of the sessions. Session 2 is when you're going to get some assignments where it should be really fun. You're going to do field research where you go out, you actually interview like your target demographic. You find out if they're really interested in what you're doing, if there's a real want for it, if they're willing to pay for it. And you also do a competitive landscape. You actually assess, who the competition is. And then you come back from winter break after doing that and hopefully enjoying that and growing from that experience. And in session 3 on February 3rd, you process what you learned, what you found out, and what to do with that information. Session 4 is February 23rd, and that's where you get into funding. It's where you get into crowdsourcing. How do you actually make money? How do you get corporate sponsorship? What is a return on investment? All of those kinds of important things. And then session 5 is all about preparing for the final pitch. Right, so session 5 is March 30th, and then the pitch competition is exactly 2 weeks later on April 13th, and that's where you guys have the opportunity with your team to have, it's either 4 or 5 minutes, depending on how many teams there are, to present your final presentation, usually a 10-slide deck presentation with a little bit of Q&A to a panel of judges that have experience in nonprofit realms, angel investment, all those kinds of things, and also other luminaries of Pratt. It's kind of a pretentious word, but just like people that are, have influence here that are really supporting you guys, because what's good for you is good for us. I'll also preface that this is no cost. You don't have to do it for credit. It's literally just something that we sponsor and run to support you guys, and the more successful you are, the happier we are. So it's like a true win-win, no hidden agenda kind of deal. So it makes me really enthusiastic about it and really love doing it. Okay, so session 1, this is from last year, so we might vary it a little bit, but it gives you kind of an idea. Session 1 is about what problem are you actually solving and how are you solving it, right? It's pretty good to know. The speakers we brought in, one was Carlos Ibarra, who's a filmmaker. This guy's problem was he's a Mexican-American, he was getting stereotyped, he was getting crappy roles, and he wanted to be, a film star. He wanted to make his own film, and he's also a semi-pro competitive runner. So he actually raised the capital and he went through how he did it, some through crowdsourcing, some through corporate sponsorship, all sorts of different ways, and a film crew, and actually filmed himself running across America. He ran 42 miles a day for 70 days in a row from New York to California, filmed this documentary as he did it, and interviewed people along the way to get a sense of Americana, how people felt about immigration, being a Mexican American, and now it's taking off in the film circuits. And so he actually mentored students about how he did that process, how he had the idea, how he figured out if that idea was actually, if he could make money doing that idea, and then how he went forward and actually made it happen. So very inspirational, super informative. And like him, the other speaker we had in session 1 was Abigail Edgecliffe Johnson. Have you guys ever heard of Racia? So Racia is now a multi-million-dollar company, and it started out with, she had a daughter who's super into engineering in the STEM fields, and she felt a lot of the toys were kind of male-centric in that field. And so she wanted to create one that was more gender-neutral or could be appealing for her daughter, and also just fun in general for other children. And so she came up with this awesome, race car design where you can take it apart and it's hard to break, and you can do all sorts of cool experiments, and it was bright colors, and it's super successful. She started as a school teacher who had a great idea, and now is a millionaire and success story, right? And also doing something good for people as well, actually encouraging women to get into science and, at a young age, which is really awesome. So what's great is both of these people were the speakers for session 1 and made themselves available to the students that were participating in this lab. And so then they could go to her for kind of mentoring. Obviously you want to go crazy because these are very busy CEOs or whatever, but that's what's so amazing, are these people are offering themselves to students, and they really want also for you guys to be successful as well. That's session 1. This is an example of, after the session, then we have people like Yvonne, who's the GA. Yvonne, say hi. That's Yvonne. She's awesome. She's my graduate assistant who is so supportive and runs a lot of the communication with the groups, as well as helping compile these research packets that help you guys have all the information on the key points that were covered in these info sessions. Okay? I'll try and do this a little bit quicker to get you through it. So the session 2, we touched on it as the target market and the competition. This is Ray Mendez, who spoke last time. This guy literally charges $2,500 for a 2-hour session that C-level people attend. He comes in here and does it for free for us, basically, and talks to you guys to help you out. So these are the type of quality people that we have, and he's just an awesome human being. I'm hanging out with him next week now, and we're just talking about hopefully getting him back to also walk you guys through what is branding. But this guy is a visionary. He's actually the person who's responsible for, the Empire State Building, the way it lights up. So that's pretty recent. He worked with the owners of the Empire State Building to have the idea that this could be the heartbeat of the city. So for Valentine's Day 15 years ago, whenever it was, he came up with the idea for it to light up like red and white and beat like a heartbeat. And because of that, that's why you see it now, all these different colors, like green for St. Patrick's Day, rainbow for Pride, all of those things. Started with my man Ray over here, and he's here to tell you guys how he comes up with those ideas, how he talks to C-level people, and how you can utilize that type of information. Super awesome. And then we also had Mike Morales. He was the VP of Design and Reserve. Now he's high up in ClassPass. Do you guys know that? I actually used it last night for the first time, which was pretty cool to do a yoga class. And so he's doing that. We're actually bringing this guy, Brian, who I just had a video conference today, who's amazing. And he's going to build on not only branding, but also he's a big leader in the Asian American community here in entrepreneurship. And so He runs a lot of the Asian American Leadership Conference initiatives, and so we're really excited to have him in here, and he was jazzed to be here as well. So he's going to be our session 2 speaker, hopefully along with Ray. All right, and then this again is like an example of the research packet that followed so you can understand like markets. And the cool thing is, no matter what happens, if you guys actually learn this stuff, you can apply it to anything to be successful in life. And so I started out this program thinking, okay, I only want people that have like patents or are ready to just like go into production or just like super gonna just make this happen no matter what and raise all sorts of money. And then I realized I really just want people who are gonna stick with the program, who are motivated and curious, and so that they can really just truly learn and actually pitch, even if they end up not like, you know, going through with that idea, because this is information that literally that's valuable for the rest of your life. And that's what I learned by doing this first session. So it feels really good to have gone through this once so I can actually talk about how it actually turns out. Session 3, this is after the winter break. This is where I get a data analysis. This is my buddy Todd, who's had this comfy 6-figure job being a consultant for Accenture, and he was bored and he loved beer, right? And so he's like, how can I do something with beer? Maybe I'll be a beer consultant. And so he interviewed breweries and he found that they don't really need beer consultants, but this is a time when canning was exploding. Do you see now all the cool beer cans that are coming out in artisanal breweries? He was at the forefront of that and created a disruptive mobile canning industry. He took out a $400,000 loan using his skills as a consultant, and now he's turning a profit and he's expanding into cold brewing and wine, and he teaches you guys how to make an executive summary, right? So how to actually boil down your ideas, make it practical, and then actually make money doing it. So he's a super cool nuts and bolts guy. And this is a guy who literally calls me on my phone and is like, hey, remember that student group that has that idea? I want to like reach out to them and just help them. Like, he actually loves helping people. So these are the kind of people I also try and bring in. They're not just successful people, they're people that actually really want to work with you guys, you know, which I'm really excited about. And then this is an example of design thinking. Have you guys seen the double diamond? Are you guys familiar with design thinking? Probably, being Pratt students, right? So this helps go over the analytics that you collected over the winter break about the competitive landscape and your target demographics. Okay, and then this is what Todd did for his interactive activity in session 3, is he helped teach you guys how to fill out a sample project intake form, which is super important. So you guys know, like, all right, what do you think, you know, your constraints are? What are your demographics? You know, who is your actual competition and how are you different than them, right? If it's a good idea, in other words, why is someone else not doing it? And if someone else is doing it, how are you different? Those are probably pretty important questions to be able to answer, right? Okay, finally, session 4 is funding. This guy, Blake, he's an expert in, you know, off the cuff, like hearing about people's ideas. So Dee over here had to basically pitch to him in 30 seconds what her idea was. So it was great getting the students to actually get up and have to do that, get uncomfortable, get sloppy, let's get messy, and let's just figure this out. Let's get better at just learning how to, like, you know, boil down our ideas so that we can actually, if we're faced to it, talk to investors, learn how to really connect with people. The other person was Allison Vicenzi. She's amazing. She's not that far out of school. She's young, super successful entrepreneur, and she really went into detail. Like, guys, it wasn't that long ago. I was in your shoes. Her problem was she didn't like a lot of the sports coats for women. She thought a lot of them were just kind of masculine and boring. And so she specializes in her own line of women's blazers, and it's just taken off. And it took a lot of hard work. And she's like, I made a lot of mistakes, but I learned from it. I want to teach you guys all the stuff I learned so you guys don't have to make a lot of those mistakes. And like, she stayed after like 45 minutes with people just talking to her because they were so psyched because she had all this like energy and you know, and could really relate to them, not being that far out of school. And then, you know, it's pretty good to know what ROI is. It's not just a buzzword, but like, why do people use it so much? It actually breaks it down. Do you guys know, don't you, I can't stand it when people just like use acronyms and abbreviations all the time as if they're like, you know, trying to intimidate you or something. So what I try and do, there's this great story that Elon Musk at Tesla literally banned people using acronyms. And he said, No, like it actually doesn't save time. It costs more time because no one wants to admit they don't know what you're talking about, right? And so it creates this misunderstanding. So just say it. Just say return on investment, right? Just say most viable product. Don't try and be cool and say all these abbreviations. So we try and do the same in our program because it's a learning program. Finally, session 5 is the presentation. So this is like 2 weeks before, just like on here, the pitch competition. And you know, everyone gets a little uncomfortable, like getting up in front of people and public speaking. It's what the scariest thing, even before death for a lot of people, right? But you just learn to get comfortable with it. And so like right now, the reason I'm kind of comfortable is because I think about, I'm really excited, I really believe in what I'm talking about, and I'm thinking about connecting to you guys. And I'm literally thinking like, this could really benefit you. That makes me really happy, so I actually want to share it with you. And that gets my thoughts away from, oh, am I standing a little weird, or now I'm thinking about it, you know, or like those kinds of things. And so I actually teach you, I learned about this through professional acting. It's why I'm not that nervous in front. I mean, I am nervous, but I can channel it, if that makes sense, and I can be authentic. And I think that's more important than being polished. You know, that's why I'm not doing this. Hey, so come to the Ignition Lab. It is wonderful. You know, I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying to instead be authentic because that comes off like pitchy and salesy. And that's what a lot of public speaking classes do. And I don't do that because I actually think it's more valuable if you see the human, if you see the authenticity and you don't feel like someone's trying to sell you something. Instead, it's like, hey, I really believe in this. I'd be really excited to work with you. So I teach you how to do that. And this guy, Taras, is from Sweden, and he's gone to hundreds of pitch competitions. And he tells the story of, you know, Swedish people are pretty reserved naturally. He went to his first few in Silicon Valley and realized, oh, there's actual an art to this, there's a craft to this. I better learn how to do it. And so he still is reserved. He's not like super bubbly like some, you know, tech people are that are from America or whatever, different backgrounds than Northern European that are more downplayed. But he learned, you know, a technique that worked for him. You know, he still kept his individuality, but learned how to adapt. And he teaches how to make the perfect slide deck. So he actually walked the groups we really prepare you for the pitch. And then Yvonne and James is my partner who I brought in, by the way. He's my business partner who is the entrepreneur in residence, and he was head of marketing for MakerBot, you know, the 3D printing company. He's run his own restaurants. He's done all sorts of stuff. And so he comes in and helps teach as well. And he brings his great entrepreneurial expertise. You know, hold on one second. Hey guys, do you mind talking a little lower? Thanks. Okay, so anyways, that's James and Yvonne, and we're here to help you the 2 weeks before the pitch so you guys can actually come in multiple times and practice in this room in front of us, and then we're going to hold the pitch competition in the new student union. So that's really exciting. So you guys will have all that and you'll be prepared, and it's going to be great. And this was the people from last year. See? That's a happy bunch. That's right after the pitch competition. And that's it. These are some examples of like the products last year. This was like an industrial design product that like LED lighting and protection for construction workers. This was the winner, and these guys actually curated, and a bunch of architects that actually got a real estate license during this process so they could learn about how to do this. And they didn't end up doing this, but they used everything they learned from this in the real estate license to make money in a different way, you know, which is super exciting. And this is Dee, who made her own boutique kind of travel agency. And she didn't win the competition or get runner-up, but one of the judges who was on the panel loved her idea so much, they personally reached out to her and they want to work with her to actually develop it. So you don't even have to win the competition. You literally just, the fact that you do it, you can still end up making these incredible connections. Yeah, and this is just more like, you know, cost analysis and yeah, and all sorts of stuff, and a prototype for an app that reduces carbon footprint. So those are just a few examples. So that's it, guys. That's kind of to tell you what it is. Now I'd love to hear from you guys. What do you think?
Are there like specialists that can potentially come in if your topic is heavily related to like health or something? Is there a way to access people that have more specific knowledge about what your company specializes in?
We can help you reach out to people. We don't like cater specifically, because if we had like 18 teams, it would be difficult to be like, for one of these 18, we're going to bring in one of the speakers who's very specific for this one thing. If on the other hand, I mean, for sure, if we saw a pattern, like, for instance, there was a lot of people that focused on sustainability last year. There was like about a third of the groups that was a focus. 100% were like, I'd probably be scrambling to get, sustainability. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, we definitely do our best to try and do that. But I don't know like how super specific we can get. But a lot of the program, it's not so much about specificity. It's about learning things like, like how to crowdsource, how to understand a competitive landscape, all of that. And then once you understand that, you're in a position to really speak with knowledge when you reach out to a specific person in that field. Does that make sense? Because you wouldn't even, if we hooked you up with someone before you even like had all of the other foundational stuff, they'd be like, that's a cool idea, but have you thought through this, this, and that? If you've done all that, and then you reach out to them, which we can help facilitate, then they're gonna be really impressed. Yeah, so that's kind of the idea. Great question. Yeah?
So can our idea start out as being conceptual, or do we have to have everything planned out before we start?
Kind of in between. Great question. So it can't be completely conceptual, because then, there's not a good shot that you're going to stick through the program. And I think my number one thing I'm looking for are people committed to actually, like, even if they have to pivot, even if they have to like reinvent themselves, are they committed to actually attending the 6 sessions, the 5 sessions with, because, we're bringing, I mean, you saw the example of people we're bringing in. My worst nightmare is that I have all these students that register and then they're just like, I can't do this. My idea sucks, I'm out. And then these people are speaking to like a third of a room where they're, these, incredibly successful people. And then they're like, why did you call me in if there's nobody here who wants to hear this? So what I want is people that are like going to stick with an idea. And in order to stick with an idea, you probably want to have it somewhat formed. Right?
Does it have to be teams, or can it be individual?
At least one other person. And the reason is because it's the same exact reason. Because if you're just on your own, you're much less likely to stick with it. But we found even if you have one other person that's supporting you, it's something like it increases your chance by like 30% that you're actually going to like stick through the program. Yeah.
Can that other person be from outside of Pratt?
Absolutely. As long as one of you guys is from Pratt. One of the people, for instance, got computer programmers from Columbia's like PhD program to help her with the coding and stuff. And I was totally cool with that. I love that. All about collaboration. I just want to make sure that I'm definitely serving the Pratt community with each of the teams.
So do we have to have everyone on the team all settled before I participate in the program? Or
Nope.
Can I just do it kind of along the way?
Yes.
Find my people?
Yeah, definitely. As long as you're really committed and you have at least one other person when you fill out the application, then you can grow. Absolutely. I'm all about like pivoting and building and all that stuff. We just want to make sure you have somewhat of a foundation with at least one other partner.
Do you have any suggestions for choosing my teammate? Say like the first person I'm looking for.
Yeah. Well, 2 things. One is someone who you really is, obviously dedicated to your idea, that believes in your idea. And the other one is what I think is someone that could complement your skills. So if you're really good at, the behind the scenes stuff and like, and you have someone who can actually like, who's really good at marketing and pitching, or other way around, like you're really good at marketing and pitching and stuff, but you don't know anything about programming, then you could find someone who complements that. That's usually a really helpful kind of partner. Yeah.
Are these
session will be recorded because my class at Pratt is runs on weekends. So I really would like to participate, but I can't because I have class on Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, are these
Yes,
gonna be
they're
recorded?
going to be live streamed. Yep.
Okay.
So as long as you can be there for the final pitch competition and one person from your team.
Okay.
So if you can't be there, but someone on your team can be there to kind of like represent your team, that's all we ask. Yeah.
Because I realized the schedule is really similar, like my capstone schedule.
Mhm.
So capstone is pretty much going to be presenting on the April 13th. Is that a Saturday?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But we are pitching pretty much the same day, yeah.
Is it the exact same time on the exact same day?
Hopefully not.
Okay, maybe not.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I'll have a lot of flexibility, like you can even go first or last or whatever just to try and work around that. But just make sure that you have at least your teammate, you know, who hopefully isn't in the same class as you, like physically present. Because we need to have someone from your team physically present for the, you know, the 5 sessions. And then, of course, the pitch. Yep. Yeah,
I have a similar question to her.
sure.
Like, it's my first year here, so I don't know too many people. Is there any suggestion on how to find a teammate or how to find someone who has the same idea?
Yeah, maybe we could. Hey, Yvonne. So we have a question that you might be able to answer pretty well. Here, come on up here for a second, Yvonne. So this is Yvonne, who's my graduate assistant, who's going to be supporting, you know, the Ignition Lab. So the question is, do you have any ideas, like if a student who's new here wants to find a teammate, maybe how they can market that to try and find someone that maybe can help them out?
I would start with asking yourself what kind of teammate you're looking for, and then start with your classmates, because that's where everyone's in the same place at the same time looking to help each other. And if not your classmates, then I would probably ask your professors if they can recommend anyone.
Yeah, and then are there like social media platforms and stuff like that?
You could probably ask on the Comedy WeChat, right? Or maybe ask on Facebook, yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, so that's how I'd go about it, just utilizing all those channels of communication and stuff like that. And I bet people will be psyched, you know, to join you. Yeah. Yeah.
The application process?
So the application is, if you guys go to, if you actually just keyword search Pratt Ignition Lab, it should bring you to the landing page. And on that landing page is a hyperlink to the application. So applications, by the way, are due October 1st. So do it before October 1st. And it asks you questions like, you know, what problem are you trying to solve? Who do you envision your competition will be? You know, these are very important questions and foundational questions that really make you think through your idea. But it's not like you have to have every answer perfect, but we just want to see you've actually given it real thought, not just like, sweet, I want to have this amazing thing on my resume and meet these incredible people, and hopefully I'll figure it out along the way, right? So we want a little bit more than that. Kind of goes back to your question, but it doesn't mean you have to be like, I know exactly what I'm going to do and exactly how I'm going to do it, because it's a learning program. Yeah.
So the final product, does it have to be like a digital product or a business?
It can be super flexible. Yeah, so literally we had people that are like, I want to create a YouTube channel with this theme, or we had people that wanted to patent a sewage drain, or we had people that wanted to create an app for reducing carbon footprints, or we had someone who was a fine art student who just wanted to apply her fine art skills to have this like very specific travel boutique agency. So I mean, it really was broad. It's like, when I say product, I mean anything that basically you can make money doing that fulfills some kind of need. So that's the definition. What's interesting is that sometimes students had these great ideas, but they didn't think how it could make money. That's kind of important, right? Because you can have the greatest idea in the world, but if you have no way to monetize it, then you're not going to be able to sustain a business, right? How are you going to pay for anything? How are you going to keep it going, right? So even if that making money means getting government grants or whatever, you still need to think that part through. So that's the one caveat I'd throw out, is that some people didn't always think about that. Yeah, and you guys need to pay the rent and all that too. So it's important to think about not just having a great idea, but how can you monetize it.
So in the application, is there any criteria when you guys are picking which team you're gonna meet with or when, or it's pretty much just as long as you have a very detailed plan, or you know what you're going to do?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. If we have like 100 applications, we don't want to take more than 20 teams. So then we'll be very scrutinizing. So some of it depends on how many, the sheer volume. But, we want to take people that are, again, very committed and have an idea that actually they've thought through, that they have been full through. So I don't know how much more specific I can get than that, because there's just so much variance. Also I look for people that are team players. Like I had one person last year who you could tell they're, very competitive and they were going in to try and win. The whole point was to win. And I don't want that vibe. I want you guys, to just be about learning and to actually be helping each other out. So this is not your team against your team or whatever. It's really like we're in this together, and if any of you is successful, that's good for all of us, right? We're here to represent Pratt in the entrepreneurial community and just get smarter and better and more impressive. And so that's very rare, though. That literally was one out of like 32 different applications I saw, and then I called the person up just to be like, okay, is this person really like that? And they're like, oh, sorry, I didn't realize I was coming off like that, and it was cool. But the main thing is, we're looking for an idea that actually seems realistic. We're looking for an idea that's been thoughtful, that can actually make money, that's not just some utopian concept. And we're looking for someone who's like, yeah, I really want to do this. I'm like dedicated to this. I'm going to stick through, even if it's challenging. And we're not asking that much. It's like 6 Saturdays over 7 months, right? And then in between, like doing the reading and actually being thoughtful and stuff like that. It's not like, the same amount as like a 3-credit class or something like that. Yeah.
Are they workshops or are they lectures? Like, what is the dynamic between us and the presenters?
Yeah, so usually the structure, you saw it's like usually 2 speakers per session. So the sessions are 3 hours. So it usually starts where we meet here, at noon on Saturday. I'd like to get like food, like pizza or something like that, so you guys can get fed. And then James and I, he's the the entrepreneur who's done everything from restaurants to MakerBot, and now he's creating an algorithm that's helping him dominate the merchandising market for 70% of podcast companies. He's super successful, in other words. And
What is that called?
I don't know what his company's called, to be honest, because he started it and he's in Spain. He's been in Spain with his wife for like the last 10 days. He should probably be at the next info session. If you're out there, James, come to the next one. But he and I basically introduce the concept. Usually we give an intro, and then we have the first speaker kind of do like a TED talk where they tell you a little bit about themselves and their company or whatever. And then they usually have an interactive activity to get you on your feet, and so they can kind of get to know you. They can hear about what you want to do. They can work with you to make sure that you're actually getting something out of it. So you're not just a static audience that's just sitting there being like, getting lectured to. I don't like that. I like interactive. I like getting my hands dirty. So that's how I try and structure it. Take a little break, have some pizza, and then you have the second speaker that does the same thing. And then you guys have kind of homework. Yvonne will probably put together a research packet because she's going to be taking notes on all the key concepts and then look them up and then email it to you guys. And we'll check in with you in between sessions. Does that give you a good sense of what it's like? Yeah, and like I said, each session has like a really important theme, which is really foundational for you guys to know to be successful entrepreneurs. And then the cool thing is a lot of the speakers will give out their emails. So like if there's something that really struck you that you want to reach out to them, you actually can email them and be like, hey, I was super impressed. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. You had a really great point about this. I was wondering, what do you think about this problem statement? You know, and as long as you guys don't take advantage of that, that's like your contact to these like amazing people, and they really feel good about helping you guys out. They're here for a reason, right? They want to give back.
During the program, after maybe like 1 or 2 sessions, and like if I decide I'm gonna slightly change the original idea a little bit, maybe like
Happens all the time. Yeah, so that's called pivoting, right? So you have an initial idea. That's actually a good sign. It means that you're not too tightly attached to your original idea, because in entrepreneurship, a lot of people have the idea, and then they're like, this is the best idea ever, and I gotta make it work, I gotta make it work, right? And then that gives them cognitive bias. Do you guys know that term? Where it's like no matter what, their idea is great, just other people just don't realize it yet, you know? And maybe that works sometimes, but most of the time what people realize is they have a good idea, but then you can make it even better by doing research, by talking to other people about it, by going out in the field and being like, do you care about this? And they're like, I kind of care about that, but I care about this even more. Interesting, okay. And then you come up with an even more brilliant idea. The example was Todd. Remember Todd, who goes, I love beer, and I'm a consultant, so I'm going to be a beer consultant. And then when he actually went out into the field and talked to artisanal breweries, what he learned is we don't need beer consulting. We need someone who can do the canning for us. And now he's making a lot of money, running his own mobile canning line and hiring people to now run it for him, so he's making passive income. And he teaches you how to do that. Yeah, so pivoting's great. That's awesome. What do you guys think? Does it sound exciting? Yeah? Awesome. Does anybody have any other questions?
So for team formation,
Yes.
we come to the next info session too, just because
You can meet other people yeah, that's a smart idea. Oh, that's another good idea is you can come to the next info session. There'll be more people like you. And also, what I'd love for you guys to do at the end of the session is to actually just talk to each other. Just allow yourselves to be uncomfortable, because it's always uncomfortable to talk to a stranger. And just, we'll turn off the live streaming so that you guys won't feel pressured. Right, Hattie? Yep. And then you guys can literally just say who you are and, what you're thinking about. And maybe some of you can even work together or can, give each other ideas or whatever. And then we'll do that the next session as well. So yeah, if any of you want to come to the next session, you can literally just show up around the end of it, about 25 minutes into it or whatever, and then just meet people afterwards. That's a really great idea. That's actually a fantastic idea. Thank you. I like that. Great. Anything else, guys? All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys being here. Great questions. I really would love to work with you guys. And thank you guys in the live streaming for tuning in. All right. Thanks, Hattie. Great. All right. Talk to each other, guys, for a second. Or talk to me.